20 of the master 20CI business there. How are you this fine, balmy day?
Very good. Thank you very much, Simon. It's a little warm.
Yeah.
So we were talking off camera. You are in the hottest room in the house. What was it? 35 degrees at the last.
35 degrees. Stuck in the loft.
So yeah, just to be clear, if all does break down and he starts sweating, it's not like that, at a Dragon's Den where they all go to pieces over their proposition. It's literally just the heat, yeah. Katy, you're in a much nicer position up in the northeast, aren't you? So you're going to be nice and relaxed and cool as a cucumber as normal there. Thanks very much for joining us today. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the title of the show is A Proven Route to Profit. I want to kick off straight away, though, with one of our best kerfufflers, one of the best agents around, and he's actually one of the people that's given you a 5-star review on the site, and that's Paul Morgan of Fowl Hayworth. I know a big client of yours. And he describes 20EA as the best kept secret in a estate agency. Now, I'm a sucker for a gotcha headline like that. For those that won't know about you, and I think it's fair to say it's a really good description, isn't it? Because actually, you do a huge amount out there in the industry that isn't well known. Could you just give us a bit of an overview for those that don't know the business?
Yeah, so I think you're exactly right, Simon. The review that we got from Paul is a really good way to describe 20EA, essentially, because we've been operating in the kind of home mover sector through our sister brand 20CI for kind of over 10 years now. And 20EA was set up about 4 years ago to actually kind of bring the offerings that we have specifically to the estate agency market. So we actually got into estate agency through the acquisition of Visi Home from Supplier a few years ago.
Yeah,
it was a lot of estate agents had a deep love for Visi, and that's basically where we started out as far as the sector's concerned. 20CI holds the largest file of home mover data in the UK. It tracks the entire property market at a very granular level. And what actually makes us different is that we have over 4,000 different sources that underpin our property market data. So rather than us just taking a listing from one source, the really kind of unique thing about our data is that we've usually seen it from multiple sources, so we can really verify the accuracy that property is actually on the market. It has just had a price reduction, what the price is, and all of that kind of granular detail. We actually can guarantee we can kind of look at the accuracy because we have seen it from multiple different sources. So we actually work already with some of the largest estate agents in the UK. Our data is fed into over 3,100 estate agency branches across the UK. So we've got a massive client base, and those agents are using our data daily to win instructions, essentially. So as far as being the best kept secret is concerned, I think that's definitely a truism for 20EA, because there's lots of people that use our data, and it's some of the largest estate agents in the country, but not a lot of people have necessarily heard of us. So we are trying the kind of the reason that we launched the products that we're going to talk about with you today is to try and get that same data to the smaller estate agents who don't maybe have teams of data analysts who are there to be able to ingest the data and kind of do all the business intelligence reports off the back of it and run their marketing campaigns. We built our SaaS products specifically for smaller agents so that they can get the benefit of our data without having to have that in-house expertise that the larger estate agency groups do.
And the irony is there, of course, is actually, the smaller ones, probably fair to say, a bit more agile in the way that they can use that data, have greater need of that data, don't you? Because as you said, they haven't got research departments sat around poring over these statistics.
Yeah, absolutely. So we really want to give that kind of level of support to estate agents that don't have that resource to hand, because it means that they can actually get it from us instead, essentially.
Yeah, I was talking to the guys earlier, actually, the Smith guys, and we were talking about, this data things. And of course, it's not like there's one master record. I think some agents think it is, it's not one site you go to, is it? You do have to, pull it from these data lakes, as I think they're called, aren't they, to be able to further validate that.
Simon.
It's a word I've picked up. It's a phrase I've picked up. So. But that's true, isn't it? And by being able to do that, have those. Did you say 3,000? Or did you? How many?
We've got over 4,000 different sources that feed into our property market data pool. So it's from different parts of the journey. So. We work with survey companies, financial services businesses. There's loads of different types of data that actually go into making up our data lake.
Yes, there you go. And of course, to ask the obligatory question, I assume obviously, it obviously is. It's all above board and everything else there. It's all GDPR compliant and everything else like that. To get that sounds like a serious undertaking to get that much that level of data.
No, that's very true, and I think we are hyper vigilant about being compliant. We're not a massive company. It's nowhere in IBM, but there are knocking 150 of us, so we are most definitely large enough to be on the ICO's register. Our chief commercial officer sits on the direct marketing board that's dealing with the GDPR compliance. So we do take it very, very seriously. Yeah. And in fact, one of the things that drove the original launch of the product was that we'd really moved beyond the days where passing Excel files with people's names and addresses was a terribly acceptable way of managing your marketing practices. So using the SaaS front end allows an agent to be confident that they're operating, that the product they're using operating in a compliant way.
Good. Well, that's great. That's a tick in the box straight off, isn't it? There, everyone when you mentioned Visi, I think it shows actually how well thought the product is, because when you mention it to people, many agents still kind of smile with a sense of regret that they obviously lost it. You bought it off ZBG, if I remember, didn't you? That was originally sold to Supplier, and then it came back to you. Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. So that's really interesting. And so companies like, as you said, the larger ones have been using it, but you have actually honed that then to be able to. What's the difference between rolling it out to a large organisation and a smaller? Is it the UI? Is it the level of hand holding that's required? What needs to change to be able to roll it out to different parts of the market?
I think there are two different ways that we've had to develop the product. The first thing is that some of the big corporates take raw data feeds, so they have very sophisticated tools that take raw data into a massive set of databases, which does clever things that produces it. They spend hundreds of thousands of pounds a year managing those databases, and so are set up to take raw data feeds and use them in the right way. So that's one difference, and this is a layer that lets people log on, see a nice interface that's easy to use, and you don't need a team of analysts. And the second piece is that quite often the marketing activity is split from the branches. So possibly a bit of a techie product management answer, but if you're dealing with one of the larger corporates, then you have to have sort of two views of the product. One is the user in branch, who might be actually driving the day-to-day campaigns, and the other set of users are the people building bespoke templates, refining and doing analysis on the campaign. What we've got, though, is a platform that allows someone to both do the analysis and manage the campaigns pretty easily.
Great. I think it's interesting that you've even just thought about it, because actually sometimes it's just products are put out there and they just assume that all agents will take them on no matter what their size and shape. And there are actually quite niche important differences, aren't there, in the way that they operate, that you need to take if you're going to get people using this in the right way, that you comfortably need to think about that minimal viable product for each demographic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that that's even true when you look at an agent with 10 branches an agent with 2, you know, there isn't necessarily a bespoke off the shelf solution that fits everybody. What we've done with our prospecting and intelligence tools is to try and build something that goes as far as we can to kind of, you know, provide that. But we still have to then work individually with each of our clients to help them to use the systems in the way that works for them. So, you know, one of the things that's really important for us and for our clients is the customer success team, because they're the guys that, fair enough, you know, somebody signs up for something, that's great, you've done your sales job and your sales pitch, but that's only the very start of the you know, the mountain that you've got to climb with them, because what you need to do is make sure that they get what they need out of the product, and for each agent that is different. Even, you know, it's not even just dependent upon the number of branches that they've got. You could have, you know, 2 agents with 10 branches, and they'll both want something completely different. And that's, you know, as I say, the great thing about what we do with our customer success team.
Agents are wonderful, aren't they, for saying, oh, look, I'm sure I just want exactly the same as what everyone else wants. And then you proceed to get 1,000 very different requests in terms of what they need. Sorry, I was stopping myself doing kind of the whole testify thing, because, you know, what you were talking about there is it's the salesperson's curse, isn't it? I'm sure it works in all industries, but especially in this one. You think the hard work is done getting the principal to buy whatever the actual product or service is, but so often it's forgotten about that, like the hard work has been done. Look, it's important getting that signature on the dotted line, but where the absolute success and of course the ROI that will justify keeping it on board is involved is about how much of that system you use. And you hear people talk very regularly on Facebook groups, I'm only using 20% of it or 50% of it, and you never get satisfaction from a product, do you, that you're using that little of. So have that hand holding again is I think a vital ingredient. I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it as I say, it's only part of the war, essentially. You know, once you've got a client on board, you need to make them happy. And when they join you, they've got these expectations because they've been given the big sales pitch. And it's the customer success team's job to make sure that we follow through on that.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, we spoke again. You're going to hear me hark back to Visi because, again, I was a client of it myself, funny enough, in the day, and clearly back then they had the wonderful advantage of being first mover. There was really no competition there. Being very honest, there's been obviously when it first left the marketplace, that left a void, and now there are a number of different sort of products that sort of operate at least ostensibly in this space. There's normally some quite important distinguishing factors that, you know, differentiate themselves. How do you stand apart from those different ones there? And is that a challenge for you in terms of when you talk to agents, you know, that they think you're all the same, or in fact they don't realise that you do much of the same stuff?
Yeah, I think there's 2 different types of people that we talk to. You know, there's the agents that know about the tools that are available and you know, who's out there in the marketplace, and so the conversation with them is different to somebody who doesn't already do any kind of prospecting or automated prospecting, certainly. So, you know, there's 2 different levels of conversation, but I think that our USPs win out in both of those kind of arguments. So as far as the system overall is concerned, it isn't just a prospecting tool. So Prospect, which is the prospecting part of it, is is very similar in certain ways to other competitor products. Our product is actually, our system is actually what we call an all-in-one kind of business intelligence tool. One of the problems with the estate agency market at the moment, or the sector at the moment, is that there are a lot of different prop tech solutions. So you might have one system that you would do one thing with, and then you've got another one that you will do your marketing with, and you know, by the time you finish, you found you've got 12 different systems that do 12 different things, and you've got to remember the logins for all of them.
Yeah.
So What we actually can provide to agents is something that will give them their business intelligence. So we've got Insight, which is a business intelligence reporting tool. So it allows them to monitor their marketplace, which is, even in the current market, it's been, it's really important. But an agent who doesn't have a view of their competitors and their own performance isn't a successful agent generally. So we have got Insight that allows agents to stay on top of their marketplace. There's Prospect, the prospecting touting tool, and then we also have Search, which is part of the package, and that is based on another data lake, a data product that we hold, which covers every single property in the country, and it allows agents to research any property. Just stick the postcode in and select the one that they want. And it will give them a lot of background information on that property before they go to evaluation. So, for example, they can see the full listing history of it. Yeah. So our clients love that because quite often they'll get somebody who rings up and says, no, property's never been on the market. No. They'll stick their details into the search tool and they'll find that actually it was on the market a year ago and it was stuck on there for 9 months and they only took it off 3 months ago and now it wants to be back on the market. So it's really a suite of products essentially with just one login, which is the key thing. So they get all of that and it's all in the same place.
I like that concept that it's not just buyers are liars, but also vendors are selling Paul right and centre as well. Sorry, Paul, you were saying something.
From my point of view, I think probably the thing that distinguishes is actually the quality of the data. We are providing industrial grade data. This is not in the nicest possible way. It's not just the data isn't just being used in this one SaaS tool. So we deliver market intelligence, home mover information, predicted mover models to some of the largest utilities, financial services companies, and telcos in the UK. People spending tens of millions of pounds on the back of the audiences that we develop for them. That's very much in the 20CI company, but we are a proper grown-up data and data science outfit. And I think ultimately, although our tool is very pretty and helps you move through and do what you want to do in terms of sending letters very quickly, ultimately it's the data that makes a product perform, and we have really, really good data. Right now, of course, the other distinguishing feature is that the core product is free.
Oh, that's one of the nicest aspects, but we're going to come to that later. Don't shoot your bolt yet too quickly on that. Look, I mean, it does look fantastic. The UI is really, really clean and everything else, but I think you're absolutely right. Let's be honest, there has been now a plethora of these data tools here. Some of them look very whizzy, but actually the data that underpins it, isn't up to. So you may well find a lot of people, you talk about agents, they will have tried different services, signed up for it on the basis of the UI, but the data lets it down, doesn't it, in terms of doing it. One thing I would just ask you then, just on that basis, is what can an agent do to essentially kick the tires, but without signing, apart from obviously the special deal you're coming up with later, and that's not me teasing, but what do they need to challenge? What do they need to ask a provider in this field there? Is it reasonable to ask for a sample of local data? What do you do?
Sometimes agents do ask us for that, and we're more than happy to provide it. But I know we're going to come back to this later, but at the minute, the platform is free, so we can sign them up, and they can actually see the data and use the data without having to commit to any long-term costs. So as far as finding out information from the supplier before you sign up to them, we are very happy to be open and give agents whatever they want, so much so that they can access both Insight and Prospect.
I do concede though that it's quite a hard thing for an agent, with 2, 3, 4, 5 branches to actually do a product evaluation like that. I think what happens is we end up having quite detailed conversations, as part of the sales process and the onboarding process about where the types of uses that our data is being used in, how the models work. So for example, off-market data sets. So that's essentially looking to predict who is most likely to move house in the next 12 months. You can look at 2 spreadsheets all you like, but the proof of the pudding is actually going to be in the who moved house in 12 months time. And no one really wants to do a 12-month evaluation. So I think the sorts of things, we wouldn't want to betray client confidence, but the sort of outfits that are using our predictive models suggest that they are very good at what they do.
Sorry, Paul. Because we actually track the property market ourselves. So as Paul says, our off-market model, which is available within Prospect and is one of the things that actually is a big USP for Prospect over any of the similar tools that might be available. It actually identifies properties that are likely to come to the market in the next 12 months. And because we track the marketplace ourselves, we've actually gone back and looked to see what percentage of the constructions were in the model last year. And it successfully predicted 73% of all the new instructions that came to the market in 2019. So agents using the Prospect platform will be able to use that data to target the people who are really the golden geese, because they're the ones that are not known to anybody else. So they've got the opportunity to get their brand into their house before they even come to market and start competing with the other estate agent down the road. And actually, 72% of all instructions are from properties that aren't already on the market. So it is, if you're using a prospecting tool and you're only targeting for agent switching, then you're missing out a huge proportion of your potential marketplace, because only 28% of the new instructions in a marketplace are from agent switching. So our tool allows you to do both.
I'm not going to let you run past that statistic that did jump out. There's some corking ones there, but just to be clear again, your propensity algorithms or whatever else predicted 70. Did you say 73%?
Yes, 73% of all new instructions in 2019 were in our off-market model.
That's sounding awfully Cambridge Analytica style. That's proper AI. If you mention AI to me, that's it. I'm sold. Where do I sign on the dotted? But I guess that does just come again from those 4,000 data sources feeding in information that gives a clue. Obviously, an incredibly good clue that obviously people are thinking about moving.
Well, I always oversimplify it, and I would say to the team who built it, hate me for it. But the best way to describe the off-market model is that it takes all of the information that we hold on a property, the area, the market, the people living in the property, and it looks at what their circumstances are, what the market is like in that area. Are 4-bedroom properties in that particular street more likely to come to the market when the owner's been living there for 4 years, for example? It goes into quite granular detail, and it then scores every single property in the UK as to their likelihood to instruct in the next 12 months.
And it used to be it was a manual process. Go back a few years, and everybody was building these models. Really, it was sort of hypothesis driven. You'd look at how long people have been in a property, you'd look at certain neighborhoods, and you'd basically handcraft some rules, which would pump out this, this audience at the end of it. And what's happened over the last few years is that we try to avoid using the word AI, but certainly machine learning tools. So the formula that it's using to calculate that model is being improved by the tool itself. So every month, it recuts itself and says, well, how well did I do for the people who came on the market last month? Okay, knowing what I know now, how should the model be improved? And it does that on its own. So you get asked the question occasionally, like, why is that property in the model? And you used to be able to go, okay, well, that's because of one of these 3 reasons. or 5 reasons or 8 reasons. And now you just kind of go, well, I could find out, but it might take me a while because that's just what the model says. It's a great, it's great. We're a Microsoft house. We use a lot of Microsoft tools, and we obviously have a data science team that build models on top of it. But the world has come on a long way in the last few years. It allows us to do things we couldn't even have dreamt of.
It is. Just please tell me that machine or whatever it is not called Skynet, is it? It's because if this was the moment I found out about the end of the world, because it starts off doing propensity to move data and then moves on to the end of the world. It's not very good. It's incredible.
No. It doesn't even have a name. And actually, once you get involved in the detail, it is actually you can just print out the very long formula. It's the fact that the formula is being improved, but it's not humans improving the formula.
Yeah,
I'm dared to go too far at trying to explain data science. I'm a big data scientist myself.
It's not them putting their bias on it. You mean this is like pure science based on obviously continual feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the paradigm that everybody used to live in was this hypothesis-driven one. Used to be sitting there, and I came from the telecoms industry, and our big thing was looking at who was going to leave you over the next X period, and you would be looking at hypotheses and testing those hypotheses and seeing if they worked or not. If they did, they went into the model. If they didn't, then you look for a better one. Here, you don't have to do that. You just say, please find me more of these.
Incredible. And I believe it to the degree that it's that impressive that your analysis is actually used, has been used by the Bank of England and even Number 10. Is that right?
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Paul.
No, after you.
So during the current COVID-19 crisis, we have been providing a weekly report to the Bank of England on the property market, and our analysis has also been fed into Number 10 to help kind of inform their policy-making decisions. We're very, as Paul said, that is our heritage. We are our data experts, and I think that is an interesting kind of a representation of that fact. In fact, in kind of true Blue Peter style, Simon, I can share some of his one I prepared earlier. I can share some of that analysis, the Bank of England stuff, with the Kerfufflers if you think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, this is the one. Let me just add it to the stream, and then it's. Is that okay? Is that there? You go.
Yeah. Are we seeing COVID-19 crisis?
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, so as I say, this is the kind of information that we've been feeding into to the Bank of England, and it features on the kind of the performance of the marketplace since the beginning of the year compared to during lockdown. Looking at new instructions, you can see the kind of the massive drop, and then we're back to now, which is also demonstrated by the big red bars that you can see here. But basically, we saw 11 weeks of lower new instruction levels than the 2019 weekly norms. We've now seen 2 consecutive weeks of growth, and that's in both new instructions and SSTCs. So at the lowest point, the market was only operating at 11% of the usual volumes of new instructions, and that was the middle of April. But you can see actually now the marketplace is operating at higher levels than we would usually have seen last year, which is really encouraging. The same is true of SSTCs, and interestingly, it was 11% of the market norms for SSTCs was the lowest point as well. But you can see here that recently SSTCs are performing much higher against the weekly norms than even new instructions. So it's showing that there really is, it's not just properties that are coming to the market. There's some real buyer demand there at the moment.
That's really, really, really interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously displayed in a really nice fashion as well.
Well, I think that having some nice, pretty pictures to look at is probably the easiest way to. Certainly the easiest way I digest things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, for asking prices, we've seen some really interesting stuff as well, because there's loads of coverage in the marketplace at the moment about the fact that asking prices would be falling.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're seeing at all. So they're far above the norms of 2019. So that tells us two things. It tells us that there isn't necessarily a big drop in asking prices, obviously, but there are higher value properties that are actually coming to the marketplace at the moment. And that is reinforced by the fact that what we've seen is that the only portion of the marketplace that isn't currently back to its previous levels is for properties valued under 150,000.
Yeah.
So that part of the marketplace is actually still quite depressed. So it's the higher value properties that are really pushing and driving the demand that we're seeing at the moment.
I was talking to an agent yesterday, quite 20 plus offices, and we were obviously talking very positively about this bounce and how sustainable it was. And I was just making the point, hopefully it will keep, obviously, it will stay for a good while, yeah. And he was making the point that he felt that the amount of discretionary movers, people that were, not those that having to move, but literally just were sick of their home, which of course you would be if you didn't like your house before lockdown. You weren't going to have fallen in love with it anymore by being locked in it, would you? So actually, that's what he felt was powering a large part of this boom as well, and why he felt quite confident that the boom would be sustained for some time yet.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the numbers by region, so what Katy was just looking at was the overall UK numbers. But if you look at the regional numbers, or rather, more interestingly, if you think that Scotland and Wales are still in the deep freeze, new instructions for England are 23% up. Sale agreed are 41% up. That's the most recent data for a week compared with your 2019 average. Now, that is a very big bounce.
It is, yes.
That's a very big bounce indeed.
Well, we spoke about, they were talking about the Boris bounce in the start of the year. I'd love to see Boris bounce, and certainly 23% wouldn't be enough. But that's what's really positive about this is, the negativity, as always, gets all the headlines, doesn't it? And it was very true that if we'd come back to, a slightly hesitant market, a negative market, the negativity would have fed on negativity, and we could have been into a downward spiral. But what's been great about this sustained boom is that that's dispelled any of that for the meantime, anyway, hasn't it? Any sort of prospects of that, and the stupid house price crashes that the likes of the tabloids were talking about. Yeah,
we're not out of the woods for sure.
I think we don't have a crystal ball, and we don't tend to be, we're not market commentators in that we will predict what's going to happen. We look at what has happened and what is happening now. But I think that, as Paul says, we're not out of the woods yet, unfortunately. I mean, I'd love to really hope that I'm proven wrong. But as a business, one of the reasons why we've made a long-term commitment to offer our products at a very low rate is that we think that things may get more difficult for agents later in the year.
I do hear from a lot of people, they're talking about that October, November time as being particularly, potentially being tricky anyway, and certainly in terms of cash flow. So I understand that. By the way, I'm dispelling your rejection of you being a crystal ball with 73% of your off-market model prediction. You're at least in the tarot card reading future business. So okay, that's really interesting. And so this sort of analysis, this really useful form of analysis, obviously you said you've been feeding it back. Do you feed this back to your clients in that kind of distilled manner as well, or do they have to kind of break down the data themselves to make these, to get these benefits?
So we've been supplying a kind of bi-weekly update to our client base throughout lockdown with information on what the market is doing. We also have a free version of our insight reporting tool, which is available to agents to sign up to look at their own marketplace specifically, which gives them access to a lot of very detailed reports, which they can use themselves. So yeah, it's a bit of both, really.
Okay. And with you're talking about in hindsight, but it would be remiss for me, as you mentioned, you are the property market experts. What can agents expect, do you think, over the coming months?
I think that, as we say, it's possibly going to get more difficult than it is at the moment. And from our point of view, having a grasp of what's going on in your marketplace and having the tools to position yourself as your own kind of, we say that we're property market experts, but agents should be property market experts in their own patch too. And the tools that we can provide them with will help them to do that. So over the coming months, it's going to become more and more important, I think, for them to be on top of what's happening in their marketplace. They can then use that knowledge to impart to vendors, and they build a trusted advisor relationship with them. So having that knowledge will help them to both win instructions and win instructions from other agents who aren't doing that.
So sorry, Katie, what you mean by that is if all the other agents are out there are being all happy clappy and no, it's perfect, now's the perfect time, but you've actually taken a much more, and it's not about obviously fear mongering, but you've been reasonable and used all the evidence that you can see to say, look, it could get a bit sticky in the months ahead. What you're working on the basis of there, it sounds to me, is that the person, the public, will remember that you were the one that gave them the right advice, and then go back to them on the basis of being the local property expert. Is that right?
Yeah, well, yes, you can kind of use it in that respect, but it will be very much having that knowledge in the moment as well, Simon. So okay. Being able to, on a evaluation or as part of a conversation with a vendor, being able to give them up-to-date information on what's going on in their very local marketplace is going to be key, because if things are more difficult, then vendors are going to be more kind of concerned about their property sales. And we certainly saw that during lockdown. The agents that really benefited from lockdown are the ones that didn't just kind of switch everything off and hibernate. They're the ones that communicated with their vendors. They gave them reassurance. They said, if there's anything we can do to help. They gave them advice. We had clients who were actually sending letters out to, so some agents did kind of, switch off all of their marketing, but the ones that were clever about it were sending out letters to their competitors' stock saying, I really hope that you're okay and that your agent's helping you through this uncertain period. But if they're not, and there's anything we can do to help, then let us know. We're more than happy to, do a video call to help you through, maybe things that you could do to help sell the property once you can bring it back to market, and those agents are the ones that really managed to benefit from the lockdown period. And that's going to be more key if in the coming months as well, kind of, making sure that agents are being clever with their marketing. Because if there does end up being a kind of lack of property coming to market, then the two audiences that are available within the prospect platform are going to be key. It's going to be the properties that are already on the market and those that are likely to come to market, because our off-market model gets updated on a monthly basis. So it is adjusting to everything that's been happening over the last 3 months, and it will continue to do that. So it will be one of the best reflections of the properties that are likely to instruct in a market where possibly instructions will be more limited.
I think that's really, really interesting, isn't it? And I mean, it totally resonates again, because, what normally happens when any sort of, so let's say it does get a bit tighter in the year, inevitably, what happens is some people just cut back, don't they? And the problem with that, of course, is, that leaves a void so that anybody can step into that void if they still continue marketing and take advantage of there being less competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things that's been interesting for me, I mean, as a relative newcomer to all of this, is looking at the market share. So the Insight tool produces market shares. We look at who's gaining share, who's losing share, both nationally, regionally, and on micro level. And I'm quite amazed at the moves. Not just random moves up one month, then down again, but people whose businesses are very well run and are consistently taking share month in, month out. And they're looking back that they are 20% larger or 30% larger than they were 12 months ago. And equally, you've got businesses who are just consistently losing share. The way they, I mean, the audience watching, the Kerfufflers are experienced estate agents. They know it's all to play for. You don't just have a market share that you deserve and you're always going to get. People who are smart operators are doing very well as the market comes back.
I did genuinely see that. I mean, obviously, when we went into lockdown, yes, the first week, everyone was in shock while we got our heads around it. But very, very quickly, but it grew week on week on week of people that, frankly said, I'm not going down without a fight and all the rest of it, and then started to genuinely see the opportunities around it. And then you start hearing, and it's repeated so often that you almost become, deaf to it. But, you hear about these great companies that launch and have made their success in some of the worst recessions out there. And indeed, we do see that time and time again, that we see market share changes hands much more dramatically during downturns than it does at any other time, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean we're not particularly in the game of being rude about anybody's business performance, particularly one of our clients, and so we tend to avoid commentating too much on on that sort of thing. But yeah, there are some people who have not got the share on the rebound that one would have expected them to have got.
Well, we'll have to talk about some sort of slot where I get to rubbish people using your data because you can't do it. A hot list and a not list. So you've been crap this month. Anyway, but I'll put that one in the to be reviewed file again. Okay. So, I mean, one of the key things about obviously a lot of these different systems is that they've majored on sales, but lettings quite often is left out of the solution. Do you cover both sales and lettings?
Yep, our product has always covered both sales and lettings, so it's not something that's new for us. And we have got a number of different audiences that are available for lettings, so they can target the trigger-based audiences. So if the property's just come on to let, or if it's had a price reduction, or if it's been had a fall through. But then we also have the end of tenancy audiences in there as well. So that looks at properties that were agreed and let maybe 10 months ago, and therefore in the next couple of months they are likely to be coming back to the market. And we can do the same for 6-month tenancies, obviously, and so that is a really good kind of way of predicting properties that are likely to come to the rental market.
Fantastic, because landlords are often ignored, aren't they, with many of the other solutions to a large degree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that providing lettings data is an important aspect, and it's not something that we have charged extra for. So even with the new upgrade packages that are going to be available, the basic package has always included lettings data. So any agents that want access to it have never had to pay an extra fee for having the lettings included.
Right. And look, Paul, you were very nice about our Kerfuffle viewers and listeners, but if I'm honest, some of them can be a bit cynical. Cynical bastards. So, obviously we're going to come on to it, but we're talking about how can they will see a cheaper fee, a lower fee, or indeed, as you're offering now, as you said, free there, as something that clearly, isn't going to have high customer service or standards there. How do you fight back against that kind of, common accusation?
Well, we're running the same product. We're running the same product, same support, same service team as we were when we were charging for the product. We've got a customer success team back in place. We've gained a lot of customers over the last lot of branches over the last month or so. But this is not a version of the product that is fire and forget with no one working behind it.
It's not light. It's not like it's not stripped out or anything like that.
No. We recognise that if you just put a sign-up form up and gave people the product to use it, much as I would with my product manager hat on, love that to be the case. That is not the way things work in the real world.
Yeah.
I mean, you hosted a great podcast a couple of weeks ago from, in fact, where you had some of our competitors on. They talked quite eloquently about how agents had to bring their own strategy and how, you know, companies like us can work with them to deliver something that's appropriate to their voice, their audience, their market proposition. And we're still doing all of that. The reason that we're not charging for it at the moment is because ultimately we hope we will do such a brilliant job over this next 12-month period that people will stick with us when we start charging for it.
You're playing the long game here, aren't you? And I mean, that only comes from, first of all, a company that's got, you know, resources, and that's great to know you're dealing with a company that's going to be around and actually is seeing the bigger picture for what it is and has confidence in its proposition. That's what I love about it. Peter Knight quite often spoke about, from the agent's point of view, that the good work you do in the kind of lockdown period, you know, it's not lost business, it's just deferred business. You're just paying it forwards a little bit, aren't you? Because let's face it, cash flow ain't great at the moment. So, whatever else, I absolutely applaud you on taking that long-term vision. And I've challenged as many suppliers as possible is, you know, I hate that phrase, new market and new normal and everything else, but try to adapt to get, because agents are wanting to try, they do want to innovate at the moment, you know, but you've got to be creative in the way that you can allow them to access and try your products, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And we really want to commit to help agents in the current marketplace, because if things do get worse then your budgets are going to be tight. So, and also staff are going to be limited. So a lot of agents have still got staff furloughed or have had to make the difficult decision of making people redundant. And having an automated prospecting tool that means that you can actually just switch it on. You never even have to log in. Once you've done your setup and you've worked with our customer success team to get your templates sorted, you never actually even have to log into the system if you don't want to. It will just automatically send the letters you want out on a daily basis using the templates you've set up. So there's absolutely nothing for an agent to do. So if they've had, you know, a marketing team sat stuffing envelopes for 3 days a week, that's money that they can save and use elsewhere in the business. So from our point of view, it's kind of, you know, making that resource available to agents at, you know, essentially for nothing.
I was talking to an agent just earlier today doing one of our kind of supplier MOTs, and he mentioned that he still had a mail room with people stuffing letters and everything else. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. Well, I know what my first prescription will be to him, basically, there. That's great. So you touched on it a little bit. What would be interesting there? So a client really likes what you've spoken about today. They have a full demonstration. What does onboarding look like again then? So what's the process? How long does it take to get set up?
It really depends on the agent themselves. So we can set somebody up immediately. You know, it takes a matter of, you know, 10, 15 minutes to actually input the agent's details and get them set up on the system, and they will have access. What happens after that and how quickly they want to send their letters out really depends on the agent, because we can't set the templates up for them. It has to have their content in there. So it's about whatever speed the agent wants to do it at. We work with them at that kind of level. So
if you've got an idea, if an agent comes to us, wants to sign up and wants to start, has an idea of the templates that they want to use, so already has pre-written letters that would be appropriate for particular audiences, we guide them through the setup of those particular audiences, and, you know, a matter of days, letters are starting to drop and start looking at the results. Fine.
Well, it is an important factor, isn't it? Because there's many suppliers out there that, unfortunately, because of the life cycle and the complexity of rollout, you actually find the agents losing the will to live or forgetting the reason why they signed up. So it is important once you've got that enthusiasm, especially when you're trying to bring a team with you, that when you do start, you start and deliver it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
I love the idea, by the way, just that kind of just to understand that as I'm christening it already in my head, that fire and forget prospecting. So you literally just, set it off in place, decide on the frequency, the templates, and then do you need to keep going back into to choose which properties you want to target, or will it, for example, just target all new instructions with competitor agents? How adaptable is the model?
It's completely adaptable, and it depends on what the client wants to do. So the majority of our clients have got automated campaigns in place. They can, they work with our customer success team on setup to fine tune the campaigns that they want. So, for example, they might be signed up for an entire postcode district, let's say MK5. But they only want to target some of the sectors within that. So, they just want to target MK58. Great, we'll set that up. They only want to target £400,000 detached properties within MK58. We'll set that up for them. So when we automate a campaign, it will only then go to the properties that meet whatever criteria the agent has set. So it's really about choosing their audience beforehand and getting that set up, and then the automated campaigns will run on a daily or a weekly basis, depending on what their preference is, and it will only hit those properties. However, some agents like to be able to go into the platform on a daily basis and check the list of properties. They would like to have that kind of control. So if that's the case, then we have what we call our Today screen, which will show all of the new properties that have hit certain triggers that are applicable to the agent's criteria. And then they can just go through, check whether there's any that they don't want to target, delete those, and then click send, and it will automatically send just to the addresses that they want it to. So, it's really up to the agent what they want to do.
And there are two philosophies that people follow in setup, and it's true of the wider marketing campaigns that we automate for blue chip retailers and utilities. You either start broad and then looking at where you get the success and amplifying those particular segments. So if you start getting success in a particular area, then you narrow it. Or what is more common is people set up a lot of campaigns, relatively tight campaigns, and it's competitive. You've got your budget, and you're looking for the campaigns that are producing the biggest bang for the buck. And if you find a campaign that is doing particularly well, then you perhaps up the weight of that budget. Everybody's probably familiar with how you optimize PPC campaigns. It's really the same sort of idea.
To be honest, you're just talking about doubling down on those on whatever marketing works for you, aren't you? It's just
absolutely, and you can see that's the great thing. It's closed loop, so you can see whether it works or not.
Brilliant. And it's the trackability I love, though. That's the so powerful about this. A lot of suppliers, there's many good suppliers, but they really struggle to show and demonstrate ROI and where they're doing it. With you guys, it's laid out for them in black and white, really, isn't it? I think what I like about it as well is that the concept of prospecting, many agents do practice it, but it's very haphazard. It tends to be feast or famine, doesn't it? When they're busy, naturally they don't have time to prospect, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in a bit of a slump. Then they obviously get on the phones again. So it's just constantly going like that. To add that level of consistency so that the marketplace always knows about your brand is a really key feature, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what agents really love about our product. And it's the reason why probably about 80% of all our clients have got automated campaigns rather than actually having to rely on themselves being able to log in every day and actually send the campaigns.
Okay. Well, look, we're going to finish up now, but we wouldn't be doing justice if we didn't obviously now get to the lovely bit here. I don't know how you improve on free, so you're going to have to explain that to me. But you've been really, really good, and thanks for coming up with a package here. As you said, you've done it for the market anyway. It's free. Is it till the end of? Is it end of July?
So the free offer is for our prospect tool, and it's for any agent that has 5 or fewer branches, and it is free until the end of June next year. So anybody who signs up now will have a full 12 months access. It is going to be, agents can sign up in December and they'll get 6 months access. So, there's no time limit on when they can sign up for it. But that is the free offer. As far as the upgrade package is concerned, we are launching on the 1st of July our Prospect Plus package, which will be just £15 per postcode district, and it gives agents access to the off-market model that we've talked about, and also the insight and search tools that we mentioned. We obviously haven't forgotten about agents that have more than 5 branches. They can
You'd be mad to.
Well, let's face it, it's our bread and butter, to be fair, Simon. They will have the ability to sign up for the standard prospect package for £15 per postcode district, or the Prospect Plus package for £30 per postcode district. And so, just to be clear, that is, as I said before, the MK5 level of postcode, rather than it being a sector, which would be MK5 8. So that's another of our USPs, is that we charge at district level rather than sector, because it means that the clients get much better value for money. They're not paying for 4 sectors at a set cost. They get those 4 sectors included in the entire district. So with regards to our Kerfuffle offer, we will be offering a third off those rates for anybody who signs up before the end of July. So that would be either £10 or £20.
Yeah, so the £15 goes down to £10, the £30 down to £20. Yeah, that's fantastic. Good. Well, I'm starting to why Paul Morgan described you as he did. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for thinking of us and our Kerfuffle members. If anyone does want to go and have a look at the 20EA landing page on Kerfuffle there, and there's an inquire there button if you want to obviously get some further information. Sure, you'll be getting a few of those. We'll also send out some further information with your contact details on, guys, if that's okay. And obviously, I'm sure you'll be able to help answer any questions for those. But have you got anything else you just need to top and tail to finish on, or is that it?
No, I think you've covered everything for me, Simon.
Brilliant. Paul, have you managed to make it through without passing out up there?
Yeah, the wind's got up a little bit. It's a little better than it was where we started. Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, Simon, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Obviously, I think that's going to be one to keep an eye on. I'd love to hear some of your market updates as well over the coming months. So we'll have you back on to talk about those. So, guys, Katie, Paul, thank you very much, and catch up with you soon.
Great. Thanks Simon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.